Hello, amped attendees. What an exciting week. I've heard some amazing speeches and some truly inspirational words. I want to give a shout out to all the amazing speakers who have given of their talents this week. Wish I had had knowledge and inspiration like this when I was in college. How different would college have been had Dave Kennedy been whispering sweet nothings in my ear about risk management instead of the devil on my shoulder telling me to go ahead and let in that nice young man into the party, who turned out to be an undercover cop. Anyway, of course, I would like to give a truly amazing thank you to the woman behind it all, Amanda Goldman Petrie. There's no way an event like this could happen without amazing leadership from the Greek tweet leader herself. Woo, wow, Amanda, you're so amazing. The crowd goes wild. Anyway, now that we're all settled in and ready to end this event right, I want to introduce myself and my topic for the day. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Jason. I am a tennis director at a country club called Oakmont Country Club in Corinth, Texas. I'm a very young tennis director. Very few people are given leadership roles such as mine at such a young age. So obviously I have some experience with leadership, and I absolutely love my job. So I think that makes me qualified to talk about the merits of liking your position. Anyway, the other thing that's kind of important to understand is that I was a psychology major at Johns Hopkins. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is psychology. The topic is that we're going to be talking about the mind-body connection and how that can help you enjoy your leadership position. Whoa. Hold on a second, Jason. Mind-body connection? What the frick what a jibba jabba are you talking? Well, not talking philosophy, not talking pseudoscience or anything holier than thou. What I'm referring to is simply how the brain works and how that can affect your enjoyment and even your physical well-being in your leadership position. I'm sure you've all experienced at some time a mental downfall of some sort, some emotional turmoil that kind of turns your body negatively with it. I know I have. When we're emotionally upset, when we're stressed, thoughts going a mile a minute, we're wrapped up in our positions, it can affect us negatively physically as well. Today we're going to talk about some mental connections and mechanisms that are going on that can hurt you and how you can combat them during the semester. So number one, we're going to talk about the silent killer, stress, and how work, any kind of work, needs equal part rest. Number two, we're going to talk about emotional control and how if you want to enjoy your position, you're going to need to lead your emotions before you can lead your constituents. And then number three, we're going to look at some examples of leaders who enjoyed their experience, and then also some really fun ones of people who did not. And of course, we're going to try and learn from these examples so that we can better enjoy our own experiences. So before I begin getting into the good stuff, I want to set up this mind-body connection so you understand that the mind and body are, in fact, connected. The way you feel influences your thoughts, but also the way you think influences your body. If you're feeling good, you're thinking good, and you can just watch as your constituents thank you for the great job you're doing. When things aren't going so great, you'll notice that the people around you don't exactly enjoy it either. So I get this question a lot, and by the way, I will be answering some questions after the event. You can email me. My email is asgoodasanace.com. Oh wait, what's my email? Amanda, what's my email? My email is jason@asgoodasanace.com. As Good as an Ace is a tennis instruction website that I run. But unfortunately, I won't be able to answer questions during the event as I'm pretty much sticking to a script here and I don't want to get off topic. But afterwards. So the question I get is, should I be thinking positively to make my body feel better, or should I be exercising more to make my thoughts more positive? And this is kind of the chicken and the egg question, and I want you all to understand that these two things, they're linked. It does go both ways. So when you sit or stand with a positive posture, when you smile and have a positive affect, even with something as simple as a hug, all these things have positive chemical effects that change your body. A hug has a somatic response that lowers your heart rate. If you have upright posture, you can increase your energy levels. If you're not happy, if you start laughing a fake laugh, but you do it for long enough, you'll begin laughing for real, and you won't even be able to control it. So already you can see that you don't have to begin by thinking positively, but sometimes instead you can make conscious decisions about how you want to present yourself or actions that you want to take, and they can turn your thinking from negative to positive. Now, I know I'm not making any points about this yet, but and I'm kind of going backwards, but I do want to give one piece of advice here, is that because you can make a conscious decision about these actions, and it can then go back and affect your thoughts. The first piece of advice I want to give is sort of to fake it till you make it. You don't have to know how to be a good leader. You don't need to know how to enjoy your position, but by faking the things that good leaders do, and by faking your enjoyment even, you might just find yourself being those things for real in no time. So just as the body can influence the mind in a positive way, it can also do so in a negative way. So there's this great experiment where some scientists were trying to figure out if facial expressions were universal, and also how many different expressions could cultures universally identify. So I wish you could see my face right now, because I'm making all sorts of wacky faces, contorting my facial muscles around, and this is exactly what the experimenters did. They had to start off by locating all the different muscle movements that make up different expressions, and some of the expressions we can't make in American culture. They're not universal, and so these scientists actually got to zap each other with electrodes and things to make their muscles make those faces. But yeah, besides that, the scientists were basically left smiling and frowning at each other all day. So anyway, they're on the day that the scientists were making the facial expressions for a sad face. And one of them looked at the other and said, "I gotta stop." And the other asked why, and the guy said, "This crap is making me feel depressed." And all of a sudden, you saw the other guy just like perked up, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, me too." So you got to remember here, they were not melancholy before making these faces. But sure enough, all of a sudden, they both were. So when they went and strapped people, of course, what they did was they went and strapped people to brain scanners and asked them to make sad faces. And sure enough, the faces came first, but then after, the brain regions responsible for sad thoughts lit up in the brain. Wow. So you can be sad and then make a face, or you can make a face and then get sad. Boom. That's the sound of my head exploding. Why is this important to you as a leader? Well, I'm going to get into that later, but for now, understand that this is a two-way street. And because traffic goes both ways, enjoyment of your position is going to need to be a physical thing as well as a mental thing. Okay, so next let's talk about Oberkampf. Back in World War I, there was a sudden, insane number of people getting injured. Bad injuries. Injuries needing amputations, bone setting, all sorts of nasty infections to deal with as well. So this bleep was painful, pardon my French. You need some serious painkillers to do with it, and they were running out. So amazingly, there was this discovery on the home front in pain medication, and they get this huge shipment of Oberkampf. Came to the rescue. Soldiers were marveled at how the pain-killing soldiers marveled at its pain-killing properties without any of the negative side effects. Oberkampf was half as effective as morphine, but was not as addictive. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard this story before. Oberkampf is placebo backwards. No one invented a magic remedy. They were just getting sugar water. You couldn't do this nowadays because everybody is smart enough to know what a placebo is. Back then they didn't. So anyway, placebos are a great way to demonstrate the mind-body connection. The power of the brain is amazing and can affect the body in such a meaningful way. You're all smart and know about placebos, so instead of trying to teach you about it, I just want to share some ridiculous statistics and write-ups about placebos to illustrate how amazing it really is. So, first one, in a study of morphine, there was a 50% pain reduction in 75% of the patients treated, but in the placebo group, once again, 50% pain reduction, but only in 36% of the patients. But still, that is some strong sugar water. These people are experiencing real pain reduction. They're real pain patients, and over a third of them are experiencing that. So that's awesome. In a sham tooth grinding surgical procedure, so that's a fake procedure. No procedure was done. No surgery was done. There was a 64% total symptom remission. Total symptom remission. No symptoms. No more tooth grinding. After no surgery, no real surgery took place. And these people have no more symptoms. So we're not just talking anymore about how your body responds to a drug in an internal way, in a body chemistry type of way. This is a physical thing. These are your muscles, how they move and work. It's crazy. But there's another side to placebos that people don't know about. If you believe the drug you're taking to be beneficial, then yeah, you're going to get a portion of the benefits, even if you're not receiving the real drug. But if you believe the drug or treatment is going to have negative side effects, you'll experience a percentage of those as well. This is called the nocebo effect. Great word, and scientists come up with some awesome stuff. So, in a recent study of a new kind of chemotherapy, 30% of the individuals in the control group, the group given placebos, lost their hair. So you can mentally screw yourself up pretty bad if you're not careful. Just as good is the power of positive thinking, negative thinking can get you into trouble as well. And finally, in a depression study, a control group was given a control group subject who thought he was getting a pill for mood elevation tried to overdose and took 23 doses of his placebo. This is just sugar water. His blood pressure spiked to near fatal levels and he required medical treatment. So I hope you can see now that the things we're talking about this week with AMPed, the types of things you should be doing, they're going to make a big difference with the way you feel and the way you experience your position. If you're starting to get negative with your thoughts, if you're going the wrong direction, you're going to experience some of those negative side effects. The most obvious form of that is stress. Stress has been linked to heart disease, muscle tension, headaches, body weight gain and loss, both to unhealthy levels, and a whole host of other physical ailments. This is why you need to understand. You need to understand stress. You need to understand this mental connection to your body and how to combat it if you want to truly enjoy your position. If you're not feeling good, you're not going to enjoy yourself. If you're not thinking good, you're not going to enjoy yourself. So the first step to enjoying your position is managing stress. Oh, by the way, this is by no means a comprehensive guide. These are just the things that make the most sense for mind-body connection. Now, there's obviously a lot more that goes into enjoying your leadership position. So anyway, there's this intro to psych class. Recently, the professor held up a half-filled glass of water. And to his class, this seemed like an obvious attempt at glass half full, glass half empty, the world is what you make of it type of transition, kind of what we're talking about. But instead, the professor asked, how much do you think the glass weighs with the water in it? So after a few failed attempts at, guess your weight carnival style, the professor stopped the class and inform them, look, guys, the weight of glass is relative. If I hold it here for a minute, it doesn't feel like it weighs anything. If I hold it here for an hour, it begins to weigh a lot more. But if I hold this thing here all day long, the weight may become unbearable. This lecture in the Intro to Psych class was not on optimism and pessimism, it was on stress. Any stress, no matter how seemingly small, can take on this same type of feeling. It's an unbearable weight. When we carry around stress with us in this way, we're inviting feelings of burden, malice into our position, which is not what we want. We want to enjoy our position. So how do we do it? How do we take this stress and turn it into a good thing? How do we handle the inevitable stresses of a high-profile position and make it enjoyable? Every position, every leadership position comes with stress. But it can be very rewarding when you overcome the stress. It can be a good thing. So to make this all easier to digest, I want to make an analogy to exercise. So imagine stress is like exercise. Let's say that you're about to enter into a weight training program. The first workout that you do, you'll only be able to do a little bit, and it's going to leave you incredibly sore. Even after a few days of rest, you'll be able to get back out there and tackle more and more, and you'll still get that same kind of sore feeling. But it's going to take a while for it to build up. But here's the problem. If we go into our weight training regimen after having done it the very next day, and then we do it again the very next day, and we keep trying to strive for more and more, but we don't give ourselves any break, you're not going to get stronger, you're going to get weaker. We don't get stronger when we work out. We get stronger when we sleep after having worked out, when we rest. So we're going to introduce two words that sort of represent opposite ends of the spectrum of stress: work and rest. When we work, we build up stress. Same way you build up muscle, or you're trying to build up muscle in your weight training regimen. If we let the stress continue to build for too long, we'll burn out. We'll begin to hate our position. We'll get weaker, not stronger. Work can be anything related to your position, anything at all. Emailing exec board, sorting through risk management documents, completing a budget, cleaning up the house, planning events. And if you do get really bad, even just being around your brothers and sisters can be work. Okay? The longer you're in your position, the more of this work you'll be able to handle without feeling the ill effects of work. But you got to realize that at first, even just a little is going to leave you feeling very heavy and burdened. Okay? So rest then is the medicine. Rest is the healing sleep. It's what rejuvenates you to get back to work and to have the positive energy to do it well. Rest can be, listening to music, going to see a movie, reading a book for enjoyment, spending some time alone, taking a walk or some other form of light exercise, or even just sleeping. Without proper rest, you're asking for a breakdown. And remember, people, you're going to need more rest at the beginning when this is all new to you. You're probably going to need just as much rest as you do work. Without equal parts work and rest, expect to start hating your position. It's inevitable. Okay? You ready for some good news? You're in college! This place is fun! There's going to be lots of opportunities to rest and enjoy life, but you got to take the time to do it. And obviously, this is going to be more difficult at certain times than at others. When you're in the middle of rush, you have to be at every event, every night, and people are counting on you to make up for the crap recruitment class that you had last year. You're going to feel that pull towards work and away from rest. But realize, without that soothing rest, you will not be able to perform your job as well, and therefore you aren't doing anybody any good. Spend your afternoons away from your org with some form of rest and step back into the driver's seat excited about those rush events the way you should be. At some point, your organization really excited you. It really made you happy. This is why you ran for a leadership position. Don't let that feeling go away because all of a sudden you're more responsible. It can still be fun if you prioritize some rest time for yourself. Well, I know what you're thinking. That's all fine until I hit that mid-semester midterm bloodbath and you're studying every freaking second, and then your vice president tells you that so-and-so got a possession charge and they're trying to blame it on the organization as a whole because so-and-so bought his weed from so-and-so and he did it in the house, and now you're getting some allegations of distribution and you may lose your charter. Yes, this happened to buddy Chris of mine. Crap, what do we do now? You can't possibly rest or we're all going to jail. Well, there's going to be time for rest when this unfortunate situation is over, but until then, we need something more to handle those crazy situations that come up. And that's where the next step comes in, emotional control. Okay? So, I knew I couldn't possibly go this entire speech without making a tennis analogy or reference, so I'm very sorry for that, but it is my specialty, and since I am in a leadership position involving tennis, it makes a little sense for me to be making the analogy. In tennis, there exists a unique situation, an interplay of emotions, if you will, between the two players and the chair umpire. Now, normally no one ever cares about what the chair umpire does. They just sit there and say, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But they're the most important person in this analogy. So imagine you're playing a point and you hit the ball out. Your opponent, dude, they're excited, they're happy, they just won the point. You're disappointed, you're upset, that's a lost opportunity, maybe you miss an easy shot. But the chair umpire just very calmly calls the ball out. The chair umpire is objective in this situation, while the other two players are subjective. Being in a leadership role usually requires you to be more objective and less subjective. Obviously, this can be a real challenge. Leaders have to try as hard as they can to remove themselves from the situation so that they can be an objective observer. They can make objective decisions that ultimately, gosh, will be best for the organization. Need a drink. Getting parched. Okay. So, how do you remain objective? One easy way that I have found to remain objective is to set goals. So, let's say that it's recruiting season and you set a goal to get 15 pledges. If you want to get 15 pledges, you're going to have to make certain decisions that may be popular to some and unpopular to others. Those are the emotional people. While at the same time, you need to be keeping the good of the organization as a whole in your mind. You need to be objective. So, little story, we once let in a group of 3 roommates when only 2 had been voted in by the official rules of our pledge process. The president needed to make an executive decision about the quality of our pledge class. If we only let in 2 of the 3, it probably would have been awkward for the second that got in, for the 2 that got in, but very devastating for the third. Not to mention, it would be 1 less number in the books. So the third was not exactly no voted, so it wasn't as if people didn't want them in. They just weren't as excited about it as the other 2. Now, obviously, you need to be diplomatic in the way you present your decisions, so you don't upset people unnecessarily, but you have goals. You know that they are for the betterment of the organization. Our president had to remove his own personal feelings from the situation and make a rational, objective decision. We had very lofty goals about our recruiting class, and letting in that 3rd roommate was probably not what the president wanted to do on an emotional level, but our goals as an organization outscored that emotional feeling he had. So another thing that you'll need to do if you want to enjoy your position is to learn how to calm your emotions down when things get heated, as they sometimes can. There's nothing worse to me, especially, than a leader who acts in the moment and ends up regretting that decision or having to recant what they said later. That really breaks the trust barrier for me. Recently, I had a client who came to me and was very upset um, about a class schedule change that I had made. Basically, I had to make a decision to remove a tennis class. Um, it was being poorly attended, and she was upset because she felt like she was being punished for her teammates not showing up to the team drill with the same kind of dedication as her. So she actually yelled at me and made me very uncomfortable as she talked about the drill change and her dissatisfaction with it. Now, this situation could have very easily put me over the top and turned into a screaming match, but instead, I calmed myself down. I reassured her that this was not her being punished, explained to her the decision, explained to her her other options for coming to drills, and after a few failed attempts at calming her down, she did finally come down off of her tirade, and this really dreadful encounter was avoided. Definitely could have been worse. So one of the tricks that I use to calm myself down when I feel emotions getting the better of me is a very easy breathing exercise. So anyone can do this, and it doesn't take any practice. All you have to do is take a very deep, chesty breath. The kind of breath that expands the top part of your lungs. So if you hold it for a moment and then exhale, that'll do the trick. So it's kind of like that. I'm exaggerating a little bit so you get the idea. When you do this, the expansion of your chest actually presses on a nerve in the small of your back between your shoulder blades called the vagus nerve. This nerve then sends a signal to your cerebellum that slows your heart rate down, slows down your breathing, and allows you to relax long enough to make a slower, hopefully better decision about how to act. There's a very good reason why you need to calm yourself down and just take that brief moment to think. There's a saying in Greek mythology that those the gods wish to defeat, they first make angry. This saying actually has a lot of scientific merit behind it. In almost all human beings, there's only 2% of people that this isn't true. So 98% or so cannot have the amygdala and the hippocampus operating at the same time. So there are two brain regions. The amygdala, that's your emotional center. It's responsible for feelings of anger and also love, emotions, strong emotions. The hippocampus, the other brain region, is the center of reason. So when you get angry, the hippocampus shuts off, effectively making you stupid. Say goodbye to good decision making. You just can't do it. All it takes is a second to make a decision that could affect the quality of your leadership. So the next time you feel your emotions taking over, take a deep breath, calm yourself down, and think before you act. Okay, so an example of that sort of amygdala taking over is, so there's really depressing story, and I'm so sorry I have to say depressing stuff. So this husband and wife, they're having their wedding anniversary, and so they go out to dinner, and they come home and they hear ruffling upstairs, and the husband, rightly so, assumes that it could be a burglar. So he gets his gun and he goes upstairs, and he hears something in the closet. So he opens the closet and gets scared out of his life. There's somebody in there. He pulls the trigger, bang, kills him, kills the person. And what of course you find out later is that they have a daughter, and the daughter lied to them. She told them that she was going to be going to her friend's house to sleep over, and in fact snuck back into the house when they were gone, got into the closet to try and surprise them on their wedding anniversary. So the dad ended up killing the daughter. Now, you gotta understand here, he opened the closet and saw a young girl there, but was still scared out of his mind and shot. So in those moments when emotion is running strong, you bypass the hippocampus, all the higher order parts of your brain, frontal lobe. It's all bypassed. All the processing information just goes straight to the amygdala, and you just make an emotional decision, and that can just ruin your credibility. So this is one of those reasons why I say it all the time. You have to be very careful just to take a moment to relax and think before you act. All right, well, that was depressing. Sorry about that. So now you have lots of info about how to enjoy your leadership position. You have some hints about how to avoid stress, how to control your emotions. So let's end by talking about some examples of leaders who enjoy their positions, and then a few choice people that didn't. Those are my favorites, actually, oddly enough. So, when I was a sophomore, there was a senior named Sam who was president of our chapter. Sam was super easygoing guy who very much loved being in charge. He was always smiling, even when things weren't going so great. And this made people feel very settled. Um, Felt like things were going well all the time, even if they weren't. But Sam did not always have it easy as a leader. Sam did a lot of really good things well. I mean, he had a very good sense of work to rest, and he could distance himself from the fraternity in the most simplest ways. He would cook, and he would spend 4 or 5 hours making like pesto from scratch, which I don't know why anybody would want to do, but he would do it just so he could be alone with his thoughts, relax. It was enjoyable for him. And then, when he got back to his job, he was doing great. But that's not actually the thing I want to talk about that he did well. The thing that he did well to me that really separated him from other leaders that I've seen is that he was very objective. He did a good job of, in those moments, staying objective. So one evening at a pledge event, a brother who had driven to the event decided to drink heavily. So, Sam saw this. He saw that it could be a very bad situation, so he took the driver's keys away. Sam was really diplomatic about it. He presented it to the brother in a, kosher way. I don't think the brother had any problem with it at the time. The problem came at the end of the night. This guy, he wanted to drive home instead of walking home. Because if he walked home, he was going to have to walk back in the morning to get his car. But, he knew that Sam wasn't going to give him the keys, so he tricked Sam into giving the keys to his roommate so that the roommate could drive both of them home. Now, the problem was that, unbeknownst to Sam, the roommate had also been drinking that night. No, I mean, when I say drinking, the roommate had not been drinking heavily, and he got them home perfectly safe. So it would have been very easy to shrug this off. However, a lot of people witnessed the event. Sam knew that he had to do something about it, mostly so that the fraternity did not think that it was okay to drink and drive. There was another reason. I'll get to that at the end. So Sam didn't make any rash decisions in the heat of the moment. He didn't yell or scream. What Sam did was he called upon the help of our house judicial system. They called witnesses. They talked to everybody involved, and they decided on a punishment. It sent the right signals to the fraternity, sent the right signals to the culprits, but it didn't alienate anybody. It was very objective. This situation could not have been handled any more delicately, any more objectively. But as great as that all is, what was craziest about this whole situation, the hardest to believe of all of it, is that the culprit, the guy who had been drinking heavily, the guy who tricked Sam, that was one of Sam's best friends in the organization. So Sam not only kept his objective nature as a leader, but he did it when there was obviously a strong emotional connection to the situation. Sam loved his position, and it almost certainly would not have been that way if not for his emotional control, his ability to be objective in the situation. Always remember that. We'll always remember that about Sam. So now for my favorite, an example of a really cruddy leader. So in my fraternity, we had easily the worst chaplain in all of history of ever. And just in case you all don't know, a chaplain is supposed to uphold the moral integrity of the chapter. So the fact that this guy serves as an example of everything you could possibly do wrong in a leadership role is even more funny to me. So we're going to call him C-Ray because that's what he was called in our fraternity. And, he started off exactly how every leader starts out. Super excited, really happy about his position, really involved, doing everything he was supposed to be doing. C-Ray, however, did not manage his stress very well. Most, if not all, of C-Ray's position just involved managing disputes between brothers. That's all he had to do. But after a few weeks on the job, not even halfway into the semester, he began telling people that if they wanted to talk to him about their problems, that they had to set up a time to meet with him in person, that they couldn't just knock on his door, they couldn't email him anymore. He said the emails he was receiving were becoming too numerous for him to handle. As this is when you need to take a step back, take some time to rest, because you got to realize even just answering emails is work, and that adds up. If you don't give yourself equal work to equal rest, you're gonna get burnt out. And so C-Ray clearly did not take the proper rest time. So keep in mind, this was right at the beginning of his position. This is also when you need the most rest. You're not going to be able to work as hard at the beginning. You're still getting acclimated. Had he just made it through these first few weeks, I guarantee he would have found that the job just got easier and easier, and he was able to answer more and more emails without needing as much rest. But of course, C-Ray didn't do that. So what happened next was, of course, he's having these meetings with people in person, and that was even worse than his email. So he was so stressed that he could not keep his emotions out of it. He began to lose his objectiveness. This guy's being held up as the moral pillar, and he can't even keep his cool when trying to help others resolve their conflicts. He basically made many of the conflicts worse by his intervention. So then C-Ray, he hit his limit. C-Ray lost control of his emotions, and instead of calming himself down, thinking rationally, C-Ray acted impulsively while still emotional. I cannot stress this enough. This is one of the worst things you can do. So our fraternity, my fraternity, is called Sigma Phi Epsilon. That's important for later. So C-Ray sent out an email to the whole fraternity. Telling us that we were becoming a bunch of sorority sisters. That all of our BS disputes were not worthy of his time. And he then ended the email by calling us Sigma Phi Hair Salon. Needless to say, the backlash was pretty harsh. At the next meeting, a brother asked our president if we could impeach someone. To which the president answered, yes, you could. It was in our bylaws. So right then and there, a motion to impeach C-Ray came forward. Now, C-Ray, he still had an opportunity to make amends. Nobody really wanted to impeach him. They just wanted to, intervene, show him how upset we were with how he was doing his position, try and, show him that he needed to do better. I don't think anybody has ever gotten impeached since, and had ever gotten impeached in, the history of our fraternity. But instead of apologizing for his actions, instead of living up to his position as the moral pillar of the fraternity, C-Ray decided to call the impeachment proceedings a joke. And that he should not have to deal with this as he did nothing wrong, and that he couldn't believe we were being so sorority-like and to just get over it. Yeah, C. Ray was impeached. It was the saddest thing I've ever seen. C. Ray hated his position, and it so easily could have been avoided with better stress management and some simple emotional control. How the hell did this guy get voted in the first place without these qualities? He's supposed to be the moral pillar. You don't have to have these qualities in place to be a good leader. You can learn them. You can fake it until you make it, like we talked about. But I don't know. I don't think C. Ray will ever make it as a leader. That he's a mess. So, to kind of just wrap this all up, I got to tell you that being a psychology major, learning all these things about the way the brain works, it makes me so much more in tune to what's going on, the interplay between my mind and my body. And, if you want to work hard and enjoy your job, enjoy your leadership role, whatever it may be, you need to just do some very simple things. Let's start off. Let's do a checklist here. Number one, let's set some goals for our organization. I know it's been talked about in AMPS. That's such a simple thing to do, but it helps really keep things objective. Remove yourself from those emotional situations to keep your objectiveness about you. Take a deep breath when things get really heated. Calm yourself down. Make sure we don't act impulsively by accident. Let's manage our stress levels, people. Let's make sure that if it's necessary that we take a step back and do something for ourselves. If it's getting to the point where just being around your brothers and sisters is stressing you out, you've gotten way past the breaking point. You need to remove yourself. Because to continue in that type of a situation, you're really not going to do anybody any good in your organization. I said it already, but if you're enjoying your position, you can just watch as your constituents feed off of that positive energy. They're happy, they're excited. It feeds off of each other. If you're negative, if you're being, that Debbie Downer, then nobody's gonna enjoy it. Not just you; they're not gonna enjoy it either. So, I hope you all enjoyed this information. I hope it's been helpful. I know I had a lot of fun speaking for you all. If you have any questions at all, please ask. I'd love to answer any and all, so do not hold back. Thanks a lot for listening in and being part of AMP's Telesummit. Ladies and germs, I bid you adieu.